Good morning to all of you. A very happy Women's Day to all of you. So today I want to talk to you, let this slide come up. I want to talk to you, I was given the topic that we should talk about inspire inclusion. And whenever we talk about inclusion, we generally tend to think about systemic issues, like how we can make office environment better, how we can make society better, so that more women can have a good career. But today I want to talk to you about personal leadership, inspiring inclusion through personal leadership. First, let me define what personal leadership means. So, personal leadership is the ability to develop and utilize your own values, attitudes, personality to guide the direction of your life instead of letting time and chance determine its course. This is the definition of personal leadership. See, when we think of a leader, who is a leader? A leader is a person who takes on a lot of responsibilities. So by that definition, each of us is a leader of our life. Okay, so I'm sure many of you can relate to this image. As women, we balance, that's why I think Ma Durga had so many hands, because so many things we balance. So when you look at a career woman, it's not just the career she's balancing. She's got a home, we've got children, we've got so many other responsibilities which we balance. And that involves leadership. Being able to manage all these responsibilities effectively involves leadership skills. Otherwise, what happens, it gets very easy to be swept away in whichever direction life is taking us. So, today I want to talk to you about 7 paradigms for success. So, I want to share with you my personal experience. One of the challenges which I face, I'm invited to speak in several forums on women empowerment and how to balance, work and life. And every time I'm faced with a challenge, because each of us, every woman's experience is a singular experience. You may be facing the same environment at work, but at home and outside, each of us face different set of challenges in terms of the kind of families we come in, the kind of expectations that are set for us. So I feel very, uncomfortable giving a list of commandments saying, do all this and you can be successful. So what I plan to do today is talk about my journey, how I came up with a set of defining principles, guiding principles which help me take crucial decisions. Life is all about important decisions. When you start off as an entry-level person, you really don't know where you're going to go. You may have dreams and ambitions, but there's no road or path which can tell us go here, turn right, turn left. There's no map available to us. So as we navigate this uncharted territory, at crucial points we need to take right decisions. So I want to talk to you about 7 driving principles which I use to take decisions, which I feel has helped me become the person I am, both professionally and personally. And I hope this journey will help you come up with your own principles so that you become the leader of your life. So first, I want to begin. This is the first paradigm. Paradigm is more like a frame of reference through which we operate. So the first paradigm I want to talk about is the role model paradigm for parenting. So as working women, one of the biggest challenges we face is motherhood. I come from software industry, and that industry is actually fine-tuned for supporting women. A lot of processes are in place for women to succeed. When recruitment happens at entry level, equal number of 50% of the people recruited are women. But what happens is once at one point in the middle management level is high level of attrition, because that's the point when women get married and have children. And that's a very big responsibility to take on. So how do we handle it? How I handle it, I want to tell you. Because when I started working, which was nearly 30 years ago, there was everybody I knew were non-working people. My mother, my mother-in-law, my co-sisters, all of them. I didn't have working women as role models. And if you ask any of them, those generation people, what it means to be a good mother, they tell you you have to be available for your children all the time. That is the definition of being a good mother. And because I was working in this in a high-tech industry requiring long hours, everybody assumed that it would not be possible for me to be a good mother. You know, getting judgment from people whom you love is even more harder to take. So I also thought, okay, because I'm a working person, I will never be a good enough mother. I will never be a mother like the women before me. And so it became such a stressful thing every day. So my way of overcompensating for it is I used to come back home after a long day at work and decide that whatever time is available with me, I have to spend with my son. And you know how wonderful it would have gone. You're exhausted, stressed out, and you're dealing with a naughty, energetic child. So mostly it was a very difficult and stressful time, stressful thing to handle. It was a big challenge for me. And what happened one day when he was in school, when he was in first standard, the teacher asked him to do a family tree and describe, each person in the family you have to describe with 2 words. And you know what is the words he used for me? Angry and busy. Because that's the words. It's not because he meant it as an insult, because those are the words he frequently heard from my mouth. I'm angry now, I'm busy now, and that I felt was like a rock bottom. I thought I have to do something here. I have to make important decisions on how to be a good mother. So what I did is I first thought I learned from other people who are parenting and doing a good job of managing children. And as I looked around, I noticed that in both categories of people, working women and non-working women, homemakers, there were good and bad mothers. There were working women who were bringing up disciplined, well-rounded children. There were also people who were 24/7 mothers who were bringing up spoiled brats, so to speak. So it made me realize that this mindset I had that you have to be 24/7 available for your children to be a good mother is not a right conclusion. Then I thought about my own parents, my father and my mother. My mother is a homemaker and she was, I owe everything that I am to her. But if I look at my father, he was also a parent, isn't it? He also had a huge contribution in my life. And he was a busy doctor. I never remember him sitting with us or having long conversations with us. But in retrospect, if I look at how he has influenced my life, he has influenced it by being a good role model. I learned work ethic, the beauty of being passionate about what you do and putting your heart and soul in your work, the importance of honesty and character, all that he showed by being a good role model for us. So that then it occurred to me that I may not be a parent, like even if I were to quit and sit at home, I don't think I have the frame of mind like the kind of mother my mother made for me. But I surely can be a parent like my father. I can be a role model to my children. I can be the kind of person I want my children to become. So from that day I made a decision that I'll never ask of my children what I can't do myself. So I want my life to be an example of the kind of values they have to emulate, how they treat people, how they deal with success with humility and grace. All that I want to learn from my example. So the day I realized that it's possible to be a good mother without having to be available for them 24/7, it freed me from my guilt and helped improve my relationship with my children. And more than anything, it helped make me a better person. Because every time I ask myself, is this what I want my children to see in me? Every time I take a decision. So that's my paradigm for parenting. Role model paradigm for parenting. Next slide, please. Okay. So the next one is what I call timeless, priceless paradigm. So all of us, you saw that first image which I showed you, you had all those hands balancing so many things. So what is the most important thing at our disposal? It is time. All of us theoretically understand it, but we have not internalized it. So even before spending 10 rupees, we think a lot, right? But we don't give that much thought when we spend time on things. But if you just remember, think of your career. When you started with a certain salary, and now your responsibilities have increased, and correspondingly, the amount you earn has increased. But has the time available for you increased? The same 24 hours was available to you when you were an entry-level person, and now with increased responsibility at home and work, the same 24 hours is available for you. So that is how precious time is. And as women especially, if we don't internalize the value of time and learn to handle it well, I think it is very hard to succeed. So I have two rules for time management. First rule what I have is whenever I spend time on anything, see, we spend a lot of time every day and many things, repeatedly doing many things, right? So whenever I spend time on anything, first I think, okay, if I do this thing every day, by end of a year, say, will it have added value to me? For example, if I get up at 4 every day and exercise. So by the end of the year, I would have become a fitter person, healthier person, I would feel good about myself. So it would have moved the needle in terms of the value it has added to me that time. So let me give you another example. You get up every day in the morning and cook. This is a very controversial question. But tell me you do it every day of the year, end of the year, what has it done to you or your relationship? So I'm not saying don't feed your family, I'm just saying think of it as an item which can be delegated, in which you can spend less time. So that brings me to the second rule of time management. If you have to choose what thing to do, so always there are more things to do than what we have time for, isn't it? So if we have to choose what thing to do, I apply this rule. Is it something which only I can do? Or is it something which someone else can do? For example, I come back from office and I get into the kitchen. I want to make a good meal for my family. So that is one activity. So I come back from office and what time is remaining, I spend time with my children, read to them or do some activities with them. So between these two, which is the thing I can delegate and which is the thing I can do myself. So spending time with my children, I can't delegate. That's something which I have to do myself. Learning is something which I cannot delegate, which I have to do myself. And there are a lot of other things which are necessary activities, but it's not necessary for only you to do. So I think it is important we invest in things and people to save our time. We should not hesitate, whenever we can afford it, we should not hesitate to exchange our money for time. That is the second paradigm for me. Next one. Then this is called the circle of influence paradigm. One of my favorite books on personal leadership is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Have any of you read that book? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. For me, it's my Bible on personal leadership, and every habit there is a gem. But for me, I want to talk to you about the first habit in the book because personally, it has created a lot of change in me. So this habit is called being proactive. So how Stephen Covey describes this habit is, if you take all the things in your life which is affecting you, let's say your work hours, traffic environment, having a difficult project or a bad boss or a bad mother-in-law, or having children's exam, you can take everything and draw a circle around it. That is called your circle of concern. That's your external circle. Then there will be certain things in those things which affect you, over which you have influence, right? For example, let's say I am fat, is my circle of concern. I am overweight, is my circle of concern. What is my circle of influence? I can exercise, I can eat properly, a healthy diet. So that is within my circle of influence. So not everything that affects you, you can control. But there is a subset of activities which affect you, over which you have control. So Stephen Covey makes a distinction between two categories of people. He calls them proactive and reactive people. So let's say what reactive people do. That is the circle on your right hand side. So what they do, they focus, all their energy is focused on their circle of concern. Okay, the value traffic was not so bad, if I had a better boss, if I was working in a better project, if I had a more understanding husband and mother-in-law, then I will succeed. Because of all these things, I'm miserable and I'm failing. And because their attention is continuously focused on things over which they have no control, their ability to control their life keeps on decreasing. So their circle of influence it grows smaller and smaller. But what do proactive people do? What do successful people do? It's not that they have less concerns. They always focus their attention on a circle of influence. What can I do about it? How can I change it? How can I make this better? That is their attention. Their attention is focused on things they can do to change and make their life better. And because their energy and attention is focused on their circle of influence, their ability to influence and control their life keeps on increasing. Their circle of influence will be much larger than most people. So although this looks like a theory, I want to give you an example of how this particular principle helped me, why I love this principle so much. You know, about 15 years back, I was offshore delivery manager of a very large client. That is, I was taking care of all the offshore delivery of a big customer in US. About 200 people were working for me. And you know, when most of you who manage multiple projects will know this, the only thing you spend most whole day in is handling problems. Everything which is going smoothly won't come to your attention at all. Escalations, fights with the client, some conflicts with on-site, all those things only you will be handling the whole day, so it's a stressful job. In addition, I had a 2 hour, like my house was 30 kilometers away from office. So 2 hours commute it used to be, like 1.5 hours to 2 hours one way. So by the time I came home, I used to be just exhausted. I just wanted to come and collapse in my bed. But then there used to be things to do at home. Homework not done, dinner not ready, guests at home, challenges to handle. So it was one of those very difficult times of my life where every day I considered quitting. Then I remembered this being proactive, which I had read in 7 Habits. And I thought, okay, let me see what I can do to make this situation better. So when I thought about it, I realized that I didn't have even like a half an hour in my day to relax or unwind. If I just had a little time, maybe half an hour to unwind, then maybe I can handle the stress better. Then I remembered that one of the things which I always used to enjoy is reading. I read a lot of books, and from young age, I love and enjoy reading. It's my way of unwinding. And I also realized that I had a long commute with nothing to do. So what I did, I decided to read on my way and back to office. This is the only change I did. This is the only tiny little change I did. And I can't tell you what a massive impact it had, both in the short term and long term. First, as soon as I started doing this, the commute stopped bothering me. Every day I used to sit and wait and curse the traffic and grumble about how long it's taking. Because I was doing something which I enjoyed doing, commute did not, I was not worried about when I'm going to reach my office. Second, what it did is, after a hard day's work, after a difficult, stressful day, while coming back, I used to read a book. So by the time I reached home, I was calmed down and unwound a bit. So when I came home, I was not in that highly stunned state. I was in a better frame of mind for handling situations at home. This is the small, short-term difference. And in the long term, how it changed me is even more miraculous. As I was reading books, I came across this book on corporate storytelling. Corporate storytelling is about how to tell stories to communicate in a corporate context. So after that, what I did, I started blogging in my corporate, like my company had an internal blog, and I started a blog where I used to collect stories about things happening in the company. Some nice human interest things that are happening in the company, how team members supported each other. For example, during retirement, how Madam spoke, gave such an inspirational speech. So all those things I used to tell in form of stories in my blog. And it became such a popular blog. And while I was doing this, I realized that I got in contact with many people in my organization who are involved in community service, who are volunteering in their villages, in the schools they study, giving back to the society, and I used to write about them in my blog. And my CEO of my company read this, and he called me and he said that there is so much interest in our employees to do this kind of work. So let's start a department to enable volunteering and to fund projects which are supported loyal volunteers, and he invited me to head it. So all those awards which he read about was the result of the work I did in that department. So you just see, one day I decided to take stock of one little part of my life, and that happiness spread within a matter of year. It spread to my entire life. So that is the power of this being proactive. This is the third paradigm I wanted to talk. And next is the marathon paradigm for career. So this is, I don't know whether this is such a big challenge in public sector undertaking, but in private sector and especially in high growth sectors like software industry, this is a problem. So what happens is when you start off at an entry level, you're on par with men because you're single and your only responsibility is your work. Then what happens at one stage, women get married, men also get married, but when women get married, their life itself changes. There's a lot of new responsibilities to take on, and when you have children, lot more responsibilities to take on. So women start, at that point what happens, you realize you are not able to kind of compete on an equal footing with men. And many people who were on par with you are ahead of you. So I always talk about this paradigm, I started running marathons. I don't no longer do it. About 15 years back, I used to run marathon, and running this marathon and training for marathon really taught me a lot of good life lessons. When you run a marathon, nobody runs to go and get the first place. 99% of the people, their only goal is to finish. When you finish a marathon, you can consider yourself a winner. And what happens during the course of the marathon? I only have run half marathon, so 21 kilometers you can't sprint. If you start sprinting the entire distance by half a kilometer, you will collapse. You have to pace yourself. So sometimes you will be ahead of the crowd. Sometimes you will have to stop to take a glass of water or to rejuvenate yourself. And at those points, other people will race ahead of you. So nobody who runs a marathon will feel bad about other people racing. They will clap, they will encourage them and motivate them to run. Because you know that you are also going to start running soon. So that is the attitude we should have towards our career also. A career spanning 38, 40 years is nothing short of a marathon. And we can't always be on the top. Like you can't always stay at the top. So whenever we have to slow down and prioritize our other responsibility, we should do it with an attitude of, I am going to get back in the game soon. This is not a permanent thing. So that is the attitude we should have towards our career. Marathon paradigm for career. And then next is what I call mental diet paradigm. There's a scientist called John Nash. Have you heard of him? He's a Nobel Prize winning economist and mathematician, but he had this debilitating mental condition called acute paranoid schizophrenia. So when you have this condition, what happens? You get all sorts of illusions, but you can't distinguish them from reality. So let's say I can see somebody standing next to me and holding a gun to my head, and it looked real to me. That's the condition he had, and he overcame this condition and went on to win the Nobel Prize. And he explained how he overcame this condition. He said, I used to be on a mental diet. What is a mental diet? Any thought that occurs to you, anything he sees, first he will ask himself, is this logical? Does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, he will ignore it. So even if he can see a person holding a gun to his head, he will ask himself, would all these people be calm if somebody is holding a gun to my head? Then this cannot be real. So this is the mental diet he practiced. So I thought if people with such conditions can practice their mental diet, why not us? See, we always watch what we put in our mouth, right? We know what is junk food and what is healthy food. But we seldom watch what thoughts we put in our head. So any thought which is going to demotivate us, make us feel depressed, low, and reduce our energy is unhealthy thought. And those which make us feel good about ourselves, feel motivated, rearing to go, those are healthy thoughts. And we should always watch what kind of thoughts we are entertaining and entertain healthy thoughts. So this is easier said than done, I agree with you. So I have a technique for practicing this. So what I do is gratitude every day. So every day after my prayer, I sit and consciously think about all the things which I'm grateful for in life. So often we are so focused on things which are going wrong that we forget to recognize the blessings we have. So if you practice gratitude every day, I found that your mind gets trained to look at positive things. So even when bad things happen, it's like a muscle you have built. Your muscle, like your brain, you have trained to look at the positive things. So even in negative things, it learns to recognize the silver lining, which we often don't do. And second, what it does, this attitude of gratitude, which I've personally experienced is, the more you train yourself to be grateful, the more you attract things in your life for which we have to be grateful for. So that has been my experience. So many people have different ways of practicing gratitude. Some people do a gratitude diary every day. So this is something I would strongly recommend. Many people ask, what is the secret of happiness? It's a hard question to answer, but if you ask me, an attitude of gratitude is the secret for happiness. So that is my fourth paradigm. And then spiritual paradigm. It's my personal belief that it is not possible to lead a full and complete life without tapping into your spiritual side. Many neurologists have concluded that there are circuits in our brain which are hardwired for experience of a higher power. That's why right from the beginning of mankind, 95% of human society had this concept of a belief in God. I'm not talking about any specific religion, but I'm talking about spirituality, an experience of oneness with nature, a belief that everything that happens is in order. It's not chaos. That is the spiritual side. And I feel it is important. If this wiring is hardwired in the brain, it means how important it is for our well-being. For example, if you shut your eyes also, you can live your life, right? Without opening your eyes, it's possible to navigate and live the life. Many people without vision do it. But when you don't open your eyes, you miss out on so many things which you can experience only with your eyes open. The vivid colors, the beauty of the night sky, everything you need your eyes for. Similarly, if you shut out your spiritual side, I feel that one big portion of human experience you lose out on. So it is important to stay connected to our spiritual side. And finally, is what I call acceptance paradigm. Like a few years back, there was a research done by Time magazine. They conducted a survey of women all over the world. And where they found the most stressful women in the world? It was in India. Most stressed out women in the world were Indian women. And we can understand why, although lots of good things have happened for women, now we have careers and other things, there are a lot of things still not changed. In my mother's generation, nobody used to ask her, what are you doing, what is your work? But now, women are expected to work and have a career. But things at home have not changed much. We still have to do all of what our mothers used to do at home too. So naturally, it is a lot more stressful condition. We are under a lot of stress. So one way of dealing with it is activism. Why should I be different? Why should life be so unfair? Why can't I get back home and watch TV and not have to cook? So all those things is what I call activist paradigm. And the second thing what I call is acceptance paradigm. But there are many things in life which are going to change very, very slowly. And breaking our head against it is a waste of time. Instead, accept it. Like when you pray, you surrender to God and say, I accept everything. Recognize the things which are very hard to change or not going to change immediately, and focus your attention on maximizing your results within the framework of things that you can change. That is what I call acceptance paradigm. The ability to accept things gracefully which cannot be changed. That is the seventh paradigm which I practice. So in life is all about making choices. And whenever you make a choice, you automatically take on the consequence of the choice. Like there's a long stick, and you make a choice, you take one end of the stick, the other end of the stick will always come up, right? It'll come up with you. So that's how life is. When we make a choice, the consequence of the choice, automatically we choose. So the best way to live is to think clearly about our choices, make choices after full consideration, and once we make a choice, accept the consequence with grace and dignity. So I would like to end with a final thought. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Happy Women's Day to all of you. Thank you.